Sylvie Barak from EE Times, and this is technically day 1 of CES, but for me it's day 3, and it's feeling like day 300. So there was a fish in the tank behind me that was sort of slumped on the bottom of the fish tank, and I think it had more life in it than I do right now. But let's start with what I've done today. It's been a very long day. It started at 7 o'clock in the morning, bright and early, with a tour of the Intel booth. Now, Intel sort of advertised this as its main press tour, the main booth tour that it would be doing for press. And we showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning, had a really lively discussion with the security guards at the entrance who wouldn't let us in. And finally, when we got into the booth tour, after much hassling and pushing and really trying to persuade them to let us in, once we got in there, it was a self-guided booth tour, which we could have done at any other time of the show. But no, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we got a piece of paper telling us what we could go around and look at. It was fantastic. I was in a great mood this morning. Then after we finished doing our self-guided Intel booth tour, which actually had some pretty cool things, which you'll see in some of our videos that we're getting up later today. So we saw some pretty cool augmented reality style stuff at the Intel booth. Things like Lego boxes that you could show it to a camera and it would show you the actual Lego scene being built, which was cool. And then you could see, if it was a castle with soldiers, for example, you'd see those little Lego soldiers fighting and dragons and that kind of thing. We also saw an artist, an oil painting artist, who was using an Ultrabook, a touchscreen Ultrabook, to really get that kind of oil painting effect, but digital. That was very interesting. That was very cool, I would say, on the Intel booth. What we then went to see after that was the Microsoft booth, which was right next door. Quite fitting, seeing as Intel and Microsoft are buddy-buddy. There was a lot of people there, obviously, trying to catch a glimpse of the elusive Windows 8, which we're not getting much of a glimpse of, I have to tell you, at this show. It's been pretty much the absence of Windows 8 rather than the predominance of Windows 8 that's been the big news story at this show. We popped over, we played with the Kinect for a little while, trying to catch a glimpse of Windows 8 properly working on a tablet or a phone. Obviously, we didn't get that. We have lots of nice Kinect footage for you guys. You'll be seeing that later on this week as well. Following on from that, we headed up to the Marvell booth and we had a look at what they were showing. Obviously, Marvell has its chips in everything from smartphones to TVs to LED lighting, and we actually got a pretty cool demo this morning of how you could control your LED lighting for your home via your smartphone. And it's not something that's coming out in 5 years or 3 years or whatever. You can actually go out and buy it now, which was really neat. I really liked how you could control, he was showing us a demo where you could control the color of the lighting, not just switching it on and off. That's fine. I mean, that's fairly simple child's play. But using the LED to create sort of different ambiances in your home. So if you come home and you're feeling in a romantic mood and you kind of want some of that orange light, you can really play with the temperatures on your smartphone there and sort of get that lighting to where you want it to be. If you want, just a little bit of lighting, you can switch some off, leave some on. It was such a simple interface. It was really just an app. You download it, everything works really seamlessly together. That was using Wi-Fi, it was using Zigbee, it was really, really integrated, and it was very cool. It was just the simplicity of it was beautiful. So we had a look at that. We had a look at Marvell's Google TV. Obviously, they're very proud of that right now. Not really sure whether Google TV is going to take off. It has seemed like a bit of a flop so far, but Marvell seems really excited about this, and we wish them the best of luck with it. They seem to have a fairly good implementation of it, which was fine. We had a look at that. We played with it. And following on from that, we headed back to the Venetian. We've been doing that trek all day from the Venetian to the conference center and back. Getting those taxis is a bit of a problem, but we got back there, and what we did was we had a bit of an exclusive with Intel's smartphone reference design. Now, Intel has been talking smartphones for a very long time and producing very little. But when we got to the Venetian today, we were pleasantly surprised because they actually did have one for us to look at, to play with, to touch. Look, the phone, I won't lie, the phone did not blow us away. We didn't look at this phone and think, that is a complete game changer. It's not a game changer. What is interesting is that it's not terrible. People expected it to be hot in the back, they expected it to have really poor battery life, and for the thing to basically just be a power monster. It's not. It actually looks fairly standard, and I felt the back of it. It had been running purportedly, obviously I can't take their word for it 100%, but they told me that it had been running since 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. When we arrived there, it was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And the phone was a little bit warm in the back. It was definitely not hot, and it had more than half the battery life. So that impressed me. I have to say, I didn't believe it when initially, but then now having seen it, well done to them. They've kept their promise in terms of keeping that power down low enough to have a phone that will last you for the best part of a day. Obviously, Android's on it. There was nothing particularly special about the Android implementation that they had. There was a quick demo of taking 10 camera shots in 1 second, which was all well and good, except you get 10 blurry camera shots instead of 1 blurry camera shot, so no big whoop there. But it was decent. Then later on in the keynote, obviously when Paolo Tellini was talking about it, he brought out his friends from Lenovo and announced that the phone would be out in the Chinese market in Q2 and under Lenovo branding. Now, I don't know how many of you have a Lenovo phone. I'm going to be guessing 0, unless you're in China, of course. But this is a big deal to Intel. For China, it's still not a big deal for the rest of the world. So stay tuned. Intel still has a long way to go in the smartphone space. But you know what? Decent start. They said they'd show something, they did show something, and you can't really fault them for that. We went to Broadcom, and Broadcom have been pushing 5G, so 5G Wi-Fi to be more specific. We're not talking about the 4G Intel, we're not talking about the 4G AT&T T-Mobile battle that's been raging for the last few months in the mobile space. We're talking about 5G wireless technology, and that's obviously the .11 AC, and that's a big deal to Broadcom right now. They've really been pushing the standard. They've been investing a lot of money into that standard, and they've been showing off some devices with some very impressive results. We filmed a segment over there, so we won't spoil it for you with the speeds and feeds, but do check in on that segment because you might be pleasantly surprised. We were also talking to Broadcom today about their connected car concept. Now, Broadcom is really pushing Ethernet in the car. It's their big play in automotive, and there were plenty of demos and plenty of people on demand at the Broadcom stand today showing us all kinds of Ethernet implications and how we were going to be able to do certain things with Ethernet better and what it meant for things like the weight of the car and fuel consumption, having that lighter Ethernet cable inside. So it was a very interesting demo. Recommend you guys watch it when we have it up on the site. Following that, obviously, we headed back to the Intel press conference, and there were other things at the Intel press conference that were interesting, but not necessarily mind-blowing. Dell announced a new Ultrabook, which looked quite nice. It befuddled me a little bit. I think it's because it's day 3 of CES and I haven't slept much, but I think I heard the guy say that you could get a 13-inch screen in an 11-inch form factor, which I didn't quite understand how they could do that. But the magic of Dell, it wouldn't surprise me. So we've also caught up with TI today at Texas Instruments and their friends from QNX, who are also doing interesting things with in-car infotainment. We talked to Avner Goren from TI. He's obviously a very controversial figure and has a lot of things to say about why TI is better than its competition, why TI doesn't necessarily think that integrating baseband is a differentiator. And he also had rather a lot to say on the subject of graphics and how that was becoming more and more important. So that was a really interesting discussion. We also found out that TI is really not buying into this whole quad core for tablets and smartphones just yet. They're still sticking with their dual core, they're still happy with it, and they're still really enthusiastic about some of the results they can get with that. So that was pretty much my day in a wrap. We've just come down from the Global Foundries press conference, actually. It's been a long day, this is why it's a long video, guys. But we also spoke to the CEO of Global Foundries just now. We found out that he's feeling particularly optimistic about the coming year. They've just got New York on the line. They're really ramping up now. They feel like they're finding their feet again. It's been a difficult year for Global Foundries. They've had some yield issues, they've had some partner issues, but the new CEO feels that they're on track to sort of get back to business this year, that they're delivering on their promises, that Singapore is really running optimally right now, and they're ready to really take on this new year and deliver to their customers. And we're optimistic for them. We hope they can keep it up. So that's been our day today. We're going to head back and upload some video footage for you, some stellar video footage that you should really check out. And we'll be back on the show floor bright and early tomorrow, keeping you abreast of all of the information and all of the news releases and everything cool coming out of CES. So that's all the energy I can muster for tonight, I'm afraid. I'm going to bid you all good night and thank you for watching.